You're not actually going to put this in, are you? I'm not answering that.
I'm not going to put that in. I'm not going to put that in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of 420 Interviews. My name is Dr. Ife Abiola. Today, I'm going to be interviewing someone that has a very unique perspective on cannabis legalization. She is a cannabis day oneer with lots of experience, a stalwart cornerstone of the cannabis industry, and someone I've come to know personally over the last few years. Let's all welcome Amber Craig. Thank you for joining me. So this is off the record. We'll include whatever we want here. You don't have to answer everything. Amber, you have a ton of experience. You are the Chief Merchandising Officer for FOUR20. And speaking of experience, you also have 20 years experience in media and journalism, including your own marketing company. Mm-hmm. Am I correct?
Yes. I guess the reason I have so much experience in media is because I started when I was a kid. So
okay. Yeah, that'll do it.
I got some professional writing experience with some mainstream media while I was still in high school, which set up my portfolio really nicely going into college. And I made the decision to start my own company, mm-hmm. Which I did for 10 years. And through that company is how I ended up working in cannabis. FOUR20 Clinic hired me on as a contractor to help develop the brand and do some marketing for them. And that was the first medical cannabis resource center in Alberta, and that was in 2013.
Yeah.
So that's how I end up with 10 years experience in cannabis.
So does that ever set off any red flags if someone's like, how do you have 10 years of experience in cannabis when cannabis has only been legalized 4 or 5?
No, when I explain that it's medical, some people don't know the medical business has been around since then.
Right.
It certainly set off red flags before it was legal for my own personal life, that I was working in cannabis. You know, no one really understood what that meant, but
sure. It's
all fine now.
What was the worst case scenario of their thoughts? Like, what did they think you meant by that?
I just think there was a lot of stigma back then.
Gotcha.
I used to work out of the clinic with my business. I subleased an office there, and a lot of my clients just weren't even comfortable being in the building. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what they thought we were doing down there, but it was all legal then, and it's obviously legal now, and no one questions why I'm working in this business now. So
okay. We've
come very far.
FOUR20 released a short video following your team counting down legalization, and you're featured in almost every scene from the beginning to the end. What's the deal?
Well, I worked 23 hours straight that day, so that's probably why I'm in a lot of scenes, because I was there the whole time, essentially. Mm-hmm.
So you were in a cannabis store, one of 2 in Calgary and one of few nationwide. Day one, mm-hmm. What was the atmosphere like?
Ooh, day one. So I showed up to the store at 3 a.m. Because that's when the media started showing up. I believe we had 100 media mentions in the first 24 hours of legalization because it was globally covered.
Now, you were also handling media at the time because
Yes.
of your job while you're working.
Right.
So you were doing double duty essentially during the busiest time of the cannabis industry ever.
Yeah, it was exciting. I mean, we had a lineup before. Like by 3 a.m. there were people in line. There was media outside getting ready to shoot, and they were starting to shoot the lineup that was forming hours and hours before we opened. And then when it got light out, the crowds got bigger and bigger. So it became part of it was crowd management and media. And then we were still putting the finishing touches on the store like minutes before we opened the door. So mm-hmm. we were all doing that. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of people on our side doing all kinds of stuff. Do you
ever try to big league somebody like now that's just kind of come into the industry and say, I was there before, I was there during, and I'm here after?
No, but I think it there's something special about being 5 years plus in an industry that's brand new. Like,
right.
Retail in general has a high rate of turnover, and mm-hmm. we've not really experienced that in our company, and there's so many people that are still with us from day one, so I think that says a lot, and it's cool to just know that you'll never be part of something that historic again. Like, that's never going to happen again.
You mentioned some of like the changes that have happened there when you mentioned turnover and people that are like still here, some people that have left. What are some of the most significant changes that you've witnessed in the cannabis industry since legalization?
products.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know if everyone just underestimated the demand of cannabis, but I think anyone on the retail side knew it was going to be more than we had available. But there was very few people we could purchase from in the beginning, and there was not a lot of product formats like there is today. All we had originally was oil and pre-rolls and flour. And obviously, 5 years in, we've got every product under the sun, from skincare products, bath products, all kinds of vapes, edibles, drops, beverages. Like, the innovation is endless. So products has obviously been a massive change. Supply prices obviously come down with the expansion of supply. Some people think it's been slow moving, but I mean, when you really think about it, a lot has happened in 5 years.
You mentioned things being slow moving, and a lot of people wanted that approach because there's been so much stigma. What strategies have you employed to combat the stigma associated with cannabis through your marketing efforts?
I think for us, we just take a community first approach. It was really important in the early days because there was a lot of stigma in 2018. So, you put up your signage and you're going to open up in a community, and people are very nervous about what that means. But I think for us, we just wanted people to feel comfortable with who we were as people and not just an entity. So we spent a lot of time door knocking, quite frankly, to other businesses and building partnerships and relationships with other companies that, could help destigmatize what it is we were doing. And now we don't have that fear when we open up a new store, but community is still really essential to what we do. So we spend a lot of time with volunteer work or setting up community donation drives, and we let our store teams kind of manage the individual areas that they work in so that they can build those relationships. But we want everyone to know that there's people behind this brand.
Sure. So it sounds like you did a lot of educating, whether it was one-on-one or just to the community or even to your team that's working. Now, here's a fun fact about Amber Craig, everybody. She has a cannabis marketing course. So you're in business and you're also in education. How do you balance those two?
Well, the education piece is not a big time-consuming thing. It's an online learning management system, so it's driven at the speed of which the person is going. But it's great to be on that side of it as well. I mean, the reason that course came about is because as an employer, I felt there was a big opportunity for education, formalized education in this industry, because it's new. There's very few people who have any experience at all, number one, and if they do, they're unlikely to have formalized education.
Since legalization, the average person who would be a cannabis consumer may have changed because now it's widely available. You don't have to go to certain lengths to get your product. So, have you noticed a shift in the target demographic for cannabis products over the years because of this? And if so, has this influenced your marketing strategies at all?
We had a built-in demographic with a brand new industry, which isn't something you can really compare anywhere else. When they first invented the computer, there was nobody that was using computers illegally before they were available. Whereas, an industry comes into birth where you can legally buy cannabis, but people have been using that product for decades. So obviously we knew there was a built-in demographic that was coming with it. What has changed, I would say, is with more awareness and education around the products and the way that it can improve lives, there's far more different demographics coming to the forefront and a lot more wellness consumers. So a lot of people, initially they were using it for recreational purposes. That would be the number one way that they would identify, but now we're seeing consumers are saying just wellness or wellness and rec. So because of that, there's more products available in that category. All these minor cannabinoids that are coming out is catering to that too, but there's just less stigma and more awareness. So some categories that were slow moving in 2018, like CBD capsules, for example, are now in very high demand 5 years in, because now people understand the purposes of product like that, and there's more consumers for it.
Where is this industry going?
To the moon. I mean, it's
you heard it here first, to the moon.
There's a lot more to happen. It's only been 5 years. I mean, everyone in this industry gets impatient because everything moves quick, and it seems like there's so much more to do. But I mean, there's decades and decades of future growth. So I mean, just imagine all the things that we've seen in 5 years. That's just going to keep happening. There's going to be changes in regulations, obviously, as the laws get reviewed. And you can look at mature markets like the U.S. to see what the future could look like. But we're still heavily restricted on things like promotional activity. At some point, things like that will loosen and expand, and there's going to be even more jobs available, and there's a lot more to happen. So a lot will change.
You said mature markets like the US. Now that's a really hot button topic because some places are pretty draconian as it comes to cannabis and some places had a leg up on us.
Well, there's certain markets, like Colorado was obviously very, very early on, and that's kind of been a market that people look to for the future for Canada. There's lots of states that you could consider mature at this point. I think I just mean in terms of the possibility for our industry.
Sure.
I would look at that as a possibility. They can advertise freely. They are, it's a very different experience from a security standpoint just because of the banking issues that they have. But from a marketing perspective, it's wide open. From a packaging perspective, it looks like any other packaged good that you would buy, which helps the consumer understand what it is that I'm buying. It's a really big gap when we're selling food items and they can't see what the food looks like.
Right.
So you go to the US in a dispensary and you can see very clearly what the product looks like inside the packaging. The packaging is not sterile like it is here. So there's a lot of things that probably will change eventually in Canada that the US has in certain markets. You have to be very careful about what you do, but there's always an avenue to do it. I'd like to see things still improve, but there's still opportunity, and I understand why the regulations are there. There's reasons behind that. So again, it's only been 5 years. It's like nothing to any other business that's out there that is complete infancy. So we need to be a little bit patient when it comes to our expectations on expanding things in our industry. But, a lot of the things we did day one, we're still doing today. And there's lots of room to play if you play within the rules.
So cautious but creative.
Yes.
Can you share any memorable moments that stand out in your career in the cannabis industry? It doesn't necessarily need to be big, but it can be close to your heart or something.
There's lots of memorable. I mean, day one is definitely number one. That's just, to have a lineup of people essentially 24 hours a day for 2 weeks we will never see anything like that again because there's so many stores.
Never say never.
Well,
who knows?
Who knows? But that was obviously very exciting. When licenses started opening up and we were preparing to open, even within the city of Calgary, I remember all of us huddled up in this room at 5 a.m. pressing refresh on our computers to see when we could submit applications with the city. So, the buzz was very real back then, and there was a lot of people trying to get in at the same time. The website was crashing. It was super chaotic, but it was also very exciting. A lot of those early day things, the job fair, that was also a highlight for me. We had 550 people show up to our job fair pre-legalization at the BMO Center. It really blew my mind, and we actually interviewed all 550 people that day. So,
everyone got interviewed.
Yes, it was.
Wow.
It was a marathon of a day, but exciting. Again, when will we have that opportunity again? I don't know that we ever will, but it was exciting to be part of it.
Even though things have changed, we're still in a really competitive landscape and a crowded landscape, particularly where 420 has stores. So how do you maintain a strong brand identity, an effective brand identity in this type of space, in this competitive landscape?
I would give a lot of credit to our people, first and foremost, in the stores. They're the true ambassadors, and they're the reasons that people come back to our stores. There's a lot of reasons why someone might choose us in the first place. It could just be a matter of proximity, or maybe they've heard our name before. That's a benefit of being an early entry into the market. But in terms of why someone would continue to come back, it's hands down the service that they receive in our stores. Our people are very dedicated, knowledgeable, and they're real ambassadors. They fly the 420 flag all the time, and that's what helps build community, and community is one of our pillars for a reason. I still think it's just as important today as it was day one. So we just focus on that really heavily, and we don't try to be everything to everyone. We just try to be amazing at the things that we're amazing at, and people's definitely one of them. So I credit our people for that, definitely.
The industry seems to have a lot of upside, but is there a negative side because it's moving so fast? Like everyone says, if you're in this industry for more than 2 years, you're a dinosaur.
It moves fast, but I mean, that's where the best things happen. I mean, it would be hard for me to imagine myself going into a traditional industry because I think I would be incredibly bored because there's just so many things that happen, and I think that's exciting. But I mean, the industry itself is not moving that quickly. I mean, like everyone's complaining that it's not moving quick enough. So it's sort of, you can't have it both ways.
Okay, yeah.
It's moving fast in some ways and it moves very slow in others, and it's still brand new. I just keep coming back to that. 5 years is not a lot. It seems like a lot in cannabis, but in the world, it's nothing. So we have to remember that. Did
you think the industry would actually make it this far though? Because there was a lot of times where it's like, this is going to collapse, or are they going to pull the plug, or, you know, would things shift? Like your own honest opinion.
I didn't think it was going to be legalized.
At all?
No.
Okay.
I even as a contractor working for the clinic, I was still extremely hesitant that was ever going to be anything more than that. I did not see the future that a lot of people saw. But once it was legalized and you saw the demand, there was no question in my mind. There was no pulling that back. It has just grown, right?
Cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that it is where it is today, and it's just going to get bigger.
What is the next big thing in cannabis?
It's hard to even know because everybody's working really hard to innovate and find something new and different, and we've seen a lot of that in the last even 6 months. So I can't even imagine what else could be coming down the pipe, because I mean the next big thing could be something small like expanding on the THC limit. Like that would be a very big change for our industry that is very normal in other markets. So I couldn't even possibly speculate.
What role do you hope to play in the next 5 years?
I'm not sure what I want to accomplish as an individual, but I feel obviously very attached to this brand. So I would say as a company, you know, I hope that we're just an example that people point to of how things were done right, and that we can just live on in the legacy of you know, innovation and leadership. That would be great. I think, you know, we want to grow much bigger than we are today, and a lot's going to happen in 5 years. So yeah, I hope that we've achieved all that we hope to, and I hope that other people see us as you know, community stewards and leaders and innovators.
Looking back on your career, what are you the most proud of?
This. Being part of history is not something that many people get a chance to do.
Amber, thank you so much. This has been great. I want to end this interview with some word association. So I'm going to give you a word.
Okay.
And you can respond with a one-word answer. Mm-hmm. You ready? Mm-hmm. 420 Clinic.
Community.
October 16th, 2018.
Sleep deprived.
Is that different than any other day? Or?
It was particularly bad that day, but I don't tend to sleep a lot. But I was sleep deprived, but also very excited.
Canada.
I don't know if I could find one word for that, but opportunity.
2020.
Change.
2024.
Change.
Amber Craig.
I don't know what to say about that. That's a weird one. I don't know. I don't have a one-word answer for that, or an answer at all. Yeah, my one-word answer is myself. That's what comes to mind. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. So that's all you're getting on that.
That's all I'm getting. But thank you for giving me so much. Amber, thank you so much for joining us on 420 Interviews. Amber Craig, Chief Merchandising Officer of 420. Join us again for another interview. Check out all of the great stuff Amber is doing around the city, around the country, and around the world. And on that note, we'll see you next time. Hello. Oh,
Sorry.
what were you going to say?
Where are we looking? Am I just looking at
You're looking right there.
Okay.